Elon Musk just brought up the last obstacle or the biggest threat to Tesla today. Drum roll. It is not Ford. It's not Apple. It's not GM. It is none other than Saudi Aramco. Interestingly enough, Elon Musk tweeted something along the lines of he thinks that Tesla, here's another, he threw us a little bone here. He thinks Tesla has the potential to be the most valuable company ever. Likes to throw us a little bone, when he's not taking the stock price with all the Twitter drama or political party declarations. But, and he added that, when Tesla's market cap making sustainable energy products exceeds that of Saudi Aramco, which is producing fossil fuels. And Saudi Aramco is actually currently the most valuable company in the world. I think they're valued at 2.38 trillion or something like that. Once, a company that is making sustainable energy products exceeds a fossil fuel company, that's when the future will be good for the earth.
Yep, absolutely. And I read that tweet as well. And he's right. And I obviously look at, Saudi Aramco and the Saudis, and they've invested heavily into Lucid, so they can see the future. And a lot of the CEOs, the oil CEOs, had mentioned on the Q1 earnings calls that they had that they understand they're saving these profits. They are running oil prices up. They are not trying to drop it down because they need to put money in the bank for their investors in the future. As dirty and corrupt as you want to think that is, that just gives you the signal that even the CEOs of these oil companies know this is temporary. So once the oil cycles back down, we're going to be transitioning over to EVs, and the Saudis are setting themselves up for that for the future because, this might be the last big swing that oil is going to get. It's not going to go away. Oil is used for so many other things in this world as it is. ICE vehicles are still going to be around for at least 10 more years, but it's going to be starting to fade. And so as it's starting to fade, this could be the last hurrah. And so I think we're going to see that transition happen. I don't know. 2025 is that big year for me. So I think 2025 is the year that Tesla takes over Saudi Aramco as the leader of the most expensive company out there.
That would be awesome. I mean, that's well, from where it sits right now, that might be more like a 4x. I don't even really know the market cap right now. Maybe it's around 700 billion. But yeah, it would be a 2x from the peak, I guess. What else was I going to say? Oh, I found an interesting statistic on, so Tesla's operating expenditure, like relative to their revenue, is one of the best, and it's been decreasing. So I think in 2021, they spent, let's say, I think 12% of their total revenue went to capital expenditure. Now, Apple and NVIDIA are the kings when it comes to efficiency and having the best margins. They spend about 3% of their annual revenues on capital expenditures. And, Tesla's already at 12% and projected on track right now, that CapEx is projected to shrink to just 6% by 2024. And I believe if they're able to achieve the 50% growth rate that they've been talking about, then it'll actually be more like 3%. So Tesla's kind of already in the top there of these best companies that have the best margins. And what does that do? That's enabled Apple, these types of companies to be where they are because they're so efficient. Like no one can come close to that. Ford and GM definitely are not operating on that level. And, a lot of it does come from the high margins with the software. And, Tesla at this point is an EV and the AI, investment, and the AI end of the business. Elon's kind of said potentially will become bigger because there's no ceiling to it. You can just make very high amounts of money and even more importantly, high profit margins with little input once the technology has been created, obviously.
Oh yeah. And, I'm looking at Tesla being so efficient as an automotive maker. We're comparing them to NVIDIA software chips, Apple chips, software phones, that's high margin stuff. This is an automotive maker. And if, they have said that their CapEx is most likely going to stay steady for the next 2 to 3 years, but their revenue is going to skyrocket. You're absolutely right. By 2025, I can easily see a 3%, CapEx expenditure. And then when you go forward, thinking about, Optimus coming out, Warren Redlick had a great video recently about, a 200 trillion market cap, $200 trillion market cap for Tesla just based on Optimus. You start getting into that and their CapEx is still going to stay probably relatively low. I mean, you might be looking at under a 1% CapEx expenditure to keep the company rolling and growing. That's insane.
If it all works out with the robot, and it's crazy. Like, I just think about it. We already have a lot of automation within factories. Tesla and other companies have already automated so much. There's so much robotics already happening. Well, if you have this car that essentially now, once full self driving is completely solved, or arguably you could just do this today with menial factory type tasks, once you automate all that, and it could just start as something as simple as a little four-wheeled robot that's, moving supplies where they need to be in a warehouse. Start simple, and we basically already have the technology for that, and then you could just kind of layer onto it. All right, add like a little forklift type maneuver, and gradually it can just increase from there until the technology is good enough that you basically have this humanoid robot that can do everything that a human can, which is insane to think about. Changes the world forever, and you
Okay.
can't even assign a value to it.
I mean, you think about like Star Wars, they have all different droids, and all the different droids have different jobs and things that they can do. I can see it being very similar, when it comes to Optimus. And they're going to start it, like you said, with very basic jobs, and doing little things around the factory. And even as Elon said, they're going to most likely start with them in the factories, which is going to be great because they're going to be able to test it themselves. They're going to be able to figure out that FSD that they need for Optimus itself, and they can then show how much money they can save in doing so. So let's say for 3 years, they're only using the factories, but they can bring their expenses down significantly when it comes to labor. Then all of a sudden, other manufacturers out there are going to be like, we want some of that, and so then they're going to go ahead and lease out these Optimus robots to these manufacturers so that they can cut costs as well. Because that's essentially what's going to come down to in the future is who can produce the most for the least. And if the difference is going to be between somebody who has human labor and somebody who has robot labor, and the difference is going to be a 70% difference in cost, you know which way you're going to go. That's it. Always comes down to money. And I know I appreciate my company because we do value people, very much so. And I know there's a lot of other companies out there that do that. But if you could save yourself 70% in labor costs by getting a robot, you're going to do it.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
I guess to bring it home, I wanted to ask you. So Toyota going to sell a whopping 3.5 million EVs in 2030. In your models, do you have a projection for what year Tesla would sell 3.5 million EVs?
I do actually. Let me take a quick look and see where I'm at.
So we're at the trailing 12 months they broke a million. 2021 was just shy of a million. I would think in 2022, supply chains, if everything, as long as we don't have an impending, real shortage and battery issue. I think the batteries are the biggest problem with the natural resources. They could do 2 million this year, and they're going to get very close to it either way, I would think.
Oh yeah. So for me right now, and I haven't fully updated it, I've got 2.4 million for next year and 3.7 million for 2024. And the 3.7 million, that doesn't even factor in the robotaxi. So I don't know. And now robotaxi, if it's going to come to volume production, it's not going to produce many, maybe 25,000, I would think, maybe 50,000 in 2024. So not a huge piece that's going to make a dent in that. But yeah, I've got 3.5 million
The
easily.
revenues from it, though, the revenues from the
Oh yeah.
taxi, near, once it's out there, very little maintenance, basically pure profit you're looking at potentially.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking at 3.7 million, and I think that's when we're also going to get the compact car coming out in 2024. We're probably going to have at least 2 or 3 new factories, either in build or being finalizing their build by 2024. So I think we're looking at production to be significantly over 5 million by 2025.
And there you have it. It just goes back to Tesla 3 times faster than everyone else. Toyota's going to do 3.5 million in 2030. Tesla very well could get there in
6
3
years before
years. Yeah,
them.
6 years before him. Yeah, I think that's
Unreal.